Here we go. Rubbish. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to the workshop. I hope you're all keeping well. Now, in this video, I'm going to be checking out some wood carving discs for the angle grinder. So in a previous video, I made a lovely Irish oak dough bowl from a lovely piece of Irish oak that I had in the workshop. But I used these flapper discs in order to carve it. These are the kind of the sandpaper ones. It was quite laborious, took quite a long time. So I've bought some of the metal shaping discs for the angle grinder. Now, I've bought some cheap ones and I've bought some more expensive ones. And this is as much to satisfy my own curiosity, because I've not used these before, and hopefully to share some information with you guys watching this video. So we'll jump in, have a closer look, see what we have here, and then we'll test these out. Now, I've not used these yet myself, so this will be my first time using them as well, but I'll share the results with you, and hopefully you guys will find it informative. So let's jump in, let's have a look and see what I bought. Okay, let's very quickly go through these discs and I'll show you what I've got. So I've got three different sets here. I've got some cheap ones and some expensive ones. So the cheapest set of the lot, again, I bought these with my own money, and this is not sponsored, so like I said, I paid for these myself, so it is what it is. Now, these ones are called by a brand Oba, again, made in China. Now, the thing is, I reckon that these are all made in the same factory, and the brand doesn't really matter between the two of these. They're actually identical, and I'll show you now in a second. So this was the cheapest set. This was a set of three. This was around 30 euros. Pomsayer, I suppose is how you'd say that, is it? You can see it there, wood carving discs. This is a set of four. This is in around 40 euros. And then we have, like, the top brand, which are made in the USA. These are Kutzall. So I have two fine. So this is a dishing one. I'll show you these in a second now as well up close. This is a flat one for doing convex shapes and you know, flat surfaces. So you can see it has a flat edge on it. And then I bought another dishing one. This is the extreme, so this is for rapid stock removal, so it's a slightly coarser grain. Now, these are expensive. These range between 60 to 70 euros a disc, which is quite pricey. Now, I have seen other carvers on YouTube use these Kutzalls, and some of them have them up to 5 years and are still going strong. So, you know, over a course of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, however long these things last, that's not a whole lot of money to pay, but the initial outlay is quite expensive. So let me break these out of the box. We'll have a look and see what we think. Okay, I'll go through this as quickly as I can. So starting with the Oba, this is a 3-disc set. So I'll just show you what they look like. So start with the concave or the dishing disc. You can see the profile on that. It's rounded. The camera will zoom in or focus on that. There we go. And you can see how these are made. They're made of steel, and the actual teeth are part of the disc itself, so they're just chipped up. So they're raised teeth. Hopefully the camera is doing a good job of showing you guys that. So that's the dishing one. Let's grab the flat-edged one, so you can see the edge of this is flat, and again, these teeth are actually part of the disc itself, and again, they're just raised, chipped up, as you can see, to give you some teeth. And this will do flat and convex edges. And then there's a flat one, or a flattening disc, in this set of three as well. Again, you can see that this is indeed a flat disc, if the camera will focus on it. There we go. So you can see straight across flat and made in the exact same way. So that's the Oba. Now onto the Pomsayer. This, again, that was the cheapest set. This is a set of 4, and to be honest with you, these are absolutely identical. So you can see we've no sticker in here. We do in here, but honestly, I can see absolutely no difference between the two of these. So I reckon it's the same factory, same manufacturer, probably just repackaged. Both of these are made in China. So again, that's the concave. I'll quickly run through this because they're identical. There is another concave one that comes with this set, but it's not as aggressive. Again, we have a slightly sloped one, again for doing convex edges. You can see there it is there. And then we have the flat one again. So there we go. So these two sets are almost identical. They seem to be very much the same. Slightly less aggressive tooth pattern on the Pomsar or Pomsair ones as opposed to the Oba. You can see the Oba one there. Again, the camera is really not helping me out here. You can see the tooth pattern. This is far more aggressive. This is a much finer tooth pattern, but we'll try them out and we'll see how they cut. So that's the only difference between these two sets. The two coarse wheels, like I said, the two concave wheels look absolutely identical. So yeah, that's them. Now let's jump onto the Kutzall. I'll show you those. Okay, moving on to the Kutzall. Now these are available in various different, I suppose, from coarse to extra coarse to extreme. This is an extreme one. It's a coarse. There is a more extreme version than this. We'll start with this. This is a concave one. Again, it's for dishing, as you can see. But the big difference with these is there's tungsten carbide teeth on these. These are not part of the blade, so these would have been added to the blade itself. So you can see how these ones are made. Quite different from the ones that are made in China. Look at the other dishing disc. These are the original, and these are fine. Get the camera to focus on that, and you can see again those carbide teeth which would be stuck on to the disc itself. So yeah, quite different and a lot more expensive. So the final one then, again, I haven't used any of these. I'm actually just first time taking these out of the pack, so you guys are seeing them as I'm seeing them. And again, this is the flat edge one for doing your convex edges and flat edges and stuff like that. So there you go. Again, this is a fine tooth one, and this is one of the originals they're called. So that's the three Kutzalls that I have. So yeah, we'll get carving. I'll show you the piece of wood we're going to try and carve. I have some of that Irish oak left over. We'll try and make something out of it. Again, it's not about the actual carving itself. It's how these things perform. So I'll show you the bits of timber now. Okay, so these are the two pieces of oak that I'm going to be using. So these are the offcuts of that Irish oak dough boil. So this is, again, two pieces of Irish oak. And I just want to test it out on these so I can get a good idea how it performed against the flapper discs. Now I'm going to try and make a bowl out of these, but the end product of the carving is not what I'm worried about here. So if I don't happen to get two bowls out of these, I'm not that concerned. I just want to see how these discs perform, how they cut, and how or what type of finish they will leave and how easy they are to use. My only reservations with these type ones is that they might catch with the tooth pattern, so we'll have to be careful again using the angle grinder. So yeah, that's it. We'll test them out. So that's the Oba set of 3, the Pomsair set of 4, and we have a set of 3 Kutzalls, and we're going to be carving some Irish oak. So let's get set up outside. This is an outdoor pursuit because it does create a lot of dust and a lot of chippings, and we'll see how these perform. So we'll start with the Oba discs and see how they work. Okay, just getting set up there, and the very first thing I noticed is that the fit onto the arbor is not great with the Oba or the Pomsair. So they do kind of catch, but it's not what I would call confidence inspiring, whereas the Kutzall, they fit on perfectly. It's a good snug fit. There's no issue whatsoever, so it's sitting perfectly here, like I said, whereas this one is not quite sitting onto the arbor, onto the ring. It's not quite fitting in there, so they're not machined precisely. You do kind of force it in and it does kind of catch, but it is not great. So yeah, that's my first concern with these. I might just give this a little rub of a foil just to make sure that they're sitting a little bit better on this, because I want them sitting square. I don't want this thing running and flapping all over the place. It would be quite dangerous. So there you go. That's the first thing I noticed. Is that they don't fit onto the arbor as nicely as the Kutzall. Okay guys, I'm actually having a little bit of bother with these, so I'm just giving them a quick run on the cone cutter. Just a touch, just so I can get this to sit in. If I get the camera to zoom in on this, there we go, let's have a look at that now. So you can see it's not sitting square, which means this will be running off at an angle. It's not sitting square and it's not properly held in the grinder, which is not good. So I can and force these in. So every time I have to put one on, I have to press it and try and get it sitting square. They need a little bit more work to make sure that they're fitting on correctly. So yeah, that's the first thing. Out of the box, they're not fitting onto the angle grinder correctly. So just something to be aware of. If you're going to buy a cheap set, yeah, make sure that you do a little bit of work to get them sitting square, because if they're running askew, that's not safe at all. So there we go. This one is ready to go now. I'll do the rest with. I'll do it with the rest of them, and then we'll get out and start cutting. Okay, we're set up outside. I just have it clamped on top of a sawhorse. Now we're running these without a guard, so I'm going to be using the handle just for extra control. I'm just worried these could catch and kick off, so we just want to be careful of that and keep our distance from it, and yeah, keep our hands well away from this disc, because you run these without a guard. So eye protection, ear protection, and all that good stuff. Stay safe at all costs. So yeah, let's get cracking and see how this works. Okay, just immediate reaction, just after taking a few cuts there. It does remove stock quite quickly, but my fears are realised that this does catch. So depending on what angle you approach this at, the angle grinder is kicking off the material. So it's quite hard to be accurate with this, and that's just how the teeth are set up. They're all cut and angled this way, so they'll catch and spin off. So you know yourself, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and if the teeth are catching in this direction, then it's going to push the angle grinder away from you. So it's going to push the angle grinder back this way each time the teeth are facing this way. So it's something to be very, very careful if you're using these discs. They are hard to control, hard to be accurate with, but the stock removal is pretty good. The finish, you would have to come in, I'd say, with a flapper disc. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually switch to the Kutzall, because to be quite honest with you, the dishing disc for the Pomsair is identical to this. I think it's going to be the same. I'm not very comfortable using this, I'll be honest with you. That's my initial impression. So let's switch to the Kutzall. Let's start carving over here and see if we get the same reaction. Even changing these discs is a pain in the backside. Just trying to get the ring for the arbor back out. It's not so easy. Yeah, I'd have to go through each and every one of these and make sure that they're machined properly, because trying to change these now is a right pain. As you can see, that is stuck in there. I'll have to tip it out. So I'll turn off the camera and get this one fit. And yeah, it's a bit of a faff. Okay, Kutzall Extreme is now in place, and these teeth are all sticking straight out, so I'm hoping this doesn't catch as much. Now, like I said, I've not used any of this stuff before, so I'm going to find out like you guys are. Plug the grinder back in. Okay, that was absolutely night and day, and the finish is 10 times better. It's removing material just as quickly, and as I thought, because all these teeth are pointing straight up, this is more abrasive than cutting with teeth, so it doesn't catch the angle grinder in any way, shape or form. I can maneuver it around, I can change angles, it's much more precise, it's not trying to kick off on me, and it is a much better finish. So let me just zoom in. You can see here is where we used the Oba disc, and here is where we used the Kutzall. So I'll zoom in and you guys can see the teeth pattern that's left from the Oba. Okay, I hope that's coming out on camera. I can't quite see the screen, but you can see how rough this is, and you can see the teeth are cutting, whereas this is much more abrasive. It's a lot smoother, it's much more uniform, and yeah, like I said, it's absolutely night and day between the two of those. This is much easier to use, much easier to control, and gives a much better finish. Now we'll see. I'll swap to the Kutzall fine, and then we'll try the Pomsair that's less aggressive and see how that works. Okay, so we have the Kutzall fine disc on it now, so I want to see how quickly this removes material and how nice it is to control. Now I apologise for all the wildlife in the background. I'm outside, I can't stop the crows, so let's rock on. Okay, so just like the other Kutzall disc, easy to control, doesn't catch. It's very easy to finesse it and to be accurate with it, which I really like. Doesn't remove material obviously as quick as the Extreme, and I am getting some burning here, so I would say softer woods, this would be good for. It is still removing material quite quickly, a lot quicker than a flapper disc, not as quickly as Extreme obviously. Like I said, this is Irish oak, it's really hard wood. I am getting some burning. If you stay in a place too long, it does start to burn the wood, but we've got a lot more teeth on this than we do on this. So yeah, definitely much more of a finishing disc. You would still need to come in here with sandpaper and sand all this. It's still fairly rough. But yeah, if you want to move particularly quickly, the Extreme is what's required. Now, I just want to try the Pomsair. This is the one that's less aggressive, has a less aggressive tooth pattern. But to be honest with you, I think I'm still going to get the same results. All those teeth are facing in one direction, and it's going to kick the blade back this way, I would imagine. So let me get this on, and I'll give you guys a look at how it does. Okay guys, so the Pomsair one is on, and to be honest with you, I had to battle to get that on the arbor, and I managed to cut my fingers in the process. Now this is not plugged in, I just slipped when I was trying to force it on, and this is the outcome. Apologies for the gore now, but I have to tell you guys, this is the first time that I've ever done a tool review, and I'm about to quit halfway through because these things are not just cheap, they're also dangerous. I'll give this a run just to see how we get on, but if it kicks again, I'll be honest with you, I'm done with these things, and I'm going to just spend the rest of the video carving a nice bowl with the Kutzall. I'll run it just to give it a test. Again, this is the less aggressive tooth pattern, but I imagine this is going to kick. So I'm going to go in and clean up my fingers now. But yeah, I don't recommend these things at all, guys, at all. Okay, finger is somewhat patched up. I'm going to give this a run. We'll see how we get on. Okay, so definitely a lot easier to use in the more aggressive tube pattern. I tried at different angles, I gave it a good run, put a bit of pressure on it. It didn't tend to kick back, which is good. It's not removing material particularly quickly, I will say though. It's not as good as the fine Kutzall, and I'm getting lots of burning. So the less aggressive tube pattern is actually easier to control. The more aggressive ones are not very safe to use in my opinion. So what I'll do is I'll actually try the flat ones of these out now. I'm going to flip this over and just try and get a convex edge and see how that goes. Okay, so starting with the oba, you can see this is the flat edge. It's slightly chamfered, so we're going to use the three of these now, the oba, the pomsar and the Kutzall, and we're going to try and just get a nice convex edge on this again. Now, I'm not too hopeful about these ones. I can say that this one actually fit on the arbor straight away, which is good. I didn't have to do any work with it. Not a lot to ask, but yeah, let's try it out. Okay, so again, quite grabby. You have to make sure you're holding onto it quite well. It's very, very aggressive stock removal there, so it is removing it quite quickly. Hard to get a very smooth curve, I would say. So I would just use this for kind of aggressive stock removal, and then you would have to come over this again with a foil, maybe a flapper disc, something like that, just to round this over. Yeah, it's hard, I would say, to get a consistent curve with. Might just be practice. Again, I'm not a practiced hand with these things, but aggressive stock removal and quite catchy, so be careful. So I'm going to try the Pomsar one now. Okay, the camera stopped recording there for some reason, but this one is the Pomsar one. Less aggressive tube pattern. I've been coating with it. It's giving me a lot of burn. I'll show you now in a second. Less of a chamfer. So the first one was the oba. This is the Pomsar. I'll give a quick run of this again. It's easier to be smooth with this, but it's not doing a very good job, I'll be honest. Okay, so it's removing hardly any material now, and I'm getting a lot of burning. So yeah, that's pretty much useless. Okay, what I can say about that is very, again, easy to control. It doesn't remove stock particularly quickly because it's the less aggressive one, but nice and easy to control. It gets a nice round convex edge. It's not burning the timber, and it has a pretty decent finish, so you could start attacking that with some sandpaper to get it finished up. But yeah, these are a pleasure to use. Those other ones really aren't. And yeah, I'm not going to use the rest of them for the rest of the video, guys, because they're rubbish and they're not safe, and yeah, I'm not putting my health at risk. Okay, so I just went on and just carved out a little dish It's not great. The purpose of this video was not to end up with a really nice end product, but it was just to test out the discs, and this would have been normally just end up as a piece of firewood. Now we have a little oak dish made out of it, and it has a hardened carved feel. So I'm going to throw a bit of finish on it. Now what I would say, or what I have discovered about the Kutzall is, when it comes to real hard wood like oak, they don't remove material particularly quickly. These are the original, these are the fine ones. The coarse one does a really good job. So I did most of my coating with the coarse and then finished it off, just sanded it with a flapper disc. So if you are looking to carve bowls, what I would recommend is that you get yourself 2 of the coarse Kutzalls, one of the dishing type and one of the flat type for doing your convex shapes and your flat shapes. Get them in the coarse and then finish your bowl with a flapper disc, because this does remove material quite quickly. It gives you a relatively decent finish, and it's quite easy to use, and it's easy to be precise, even though it is marked as the extreme and the coarse. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Get yourselves the coarse ones, finish with the flapper discs, and build from there. I can't in good conscience recommend these cheap ones to you guys. I just can't. They don't fit the grinder, they're not safe, and they're not easy to use, and they are very grabby. So I'm just going to get a bit of finish on this, and then we'll wrap up this video. But yeah, that was a learning curve for me. Hopefully you guys gained some good information out of it. I've put way too much finish into this dish. But yeah, that's my first time using these carving discs. And yeah, it's a bit of a learning curve, like I said. But I've learned a lot, and it's that age-old lesson, isn't it? Buy once, buy good. Cheap tools are cheap for a reason. And yeah, that's way too much finish in that. Okay guys, so there we go. That is cheap versus expensive carving discs, and that's been a lesson learned from me, and hopefully for you guys as well. Hopefully you found this video informative. If you're thinking of getting into wood carving, power carving with an angle grinder, you're looking at these cutting discs, I would say stay away from that cheaper stuff that's on Amazon, that Chinese made stuff. They're not great, and in my opinion, they're not even safe to use. So that is my opinion, that is my experience with them. I would recommend save up your money, spend the extra few pound, get the Kutzall. I know they are expensive, but if you bought maybe 2 of the coarse ones and some flapper discs, that would do most of your carving needs. And if you do get 10 years out of a disc, then it's not that much money to pay over 10 years, especially if you're full-time carving or if you're getting into carving. Then they're not really that expensive. And like I said, they're not safe. They're not even nice to use. They are lovely to use, nice and safe as far as I can see, and the results are pretty good. So that's it guys. It's the age-old thing, I suppose, buy good, buy once. As my grandfather used to always say when it comes to tools, that rule still applies to this day and age. There are no free lunches. Cheap tools are cheap for a reason. So that's it guys. I'm going to get out of here now. At least we ended up with a relatively nice little oak dish at the end of it, and we've learned some lessons. So give the video a thumbs up guys if you liked it. Any questions, comments, leave them below. If you're new here, think about subscribing, and that helps me out a lot. And until then guys, I'm going to get out of here now with my sore finger and my little oak dish. I shall see you in the next one guys. Take it easy.